All right, let's now bring in political analyst Prof Sethulego Matebesi to give us a preview on the ANC Policy Conference that's to take place over this weekend. A very good afternoon to you, Prof. Always a pleasure to see you.
Hi, good afternoon, Flo, and good afternoon to South Africans.
All right, this is, of course, one of the important conferences within the ANC with so many divisions and factions, and I'm sure you saw what happened this past weekend in KZN. How do you see, this weekend going for the party, and what can be said about what took place last week in KZN?
Yeah, very briefly, I know many South Africans and even other parts of the world will ask questions whether 2 days set aside to discuss such important policy documents is actually enough. But one thing that we should understand is that the ANC members has been privy to these documents already a couple of months ago. And what will stand out for me, definitely many issues relating to the economy. If you look at what is currently happening, you've mentioned in your issues of poverty, unemployment, and inequality which continue in South Africa. But also, what is very importantly, remember it is an ANC event and politics will also take center stage. And two issues that I do believe will dominate the policy discussions will definitely be the recommendations of the Zondo Commission and the so-called step-aside rule of the African National Congress.
So where we're supposed to be talking about these matters that you rightly talk about, whether it's the economy, matters of policy that really do affect us as ordinary South Africans, it seems that these will really be sort of drowned out or dominated really by issues pertaining to the party. And yes, we understand that it is the ANC Policy Conference, but, one wonders if they can really get to the bottom of the things that we mentioned that really should be discussed, or will problems that pertain to unity and the factions really overtake conversations?
No, maybe an ANC 2 decades from now will be able to put the interest of its own members ahead of individual the interest of individual leaders, and perhaps also the interest of South Africans at heart. But currently, what the ANC is facing, it is almost like an internal strife, and that's why it's a jockeying of position, who to support, and it's definitely not about how to strengthen certain policies. Yes, there will be some discussions going forward, but we had this policy conference for I don't know how many times. And fact of the matter is, South Africans is on the brink of collapse for many households that battles just to survive on a daily basis. Those people are looking forward to this weekend and to see what tangible policy recommendations, proposals will come out of this conference.
Let's talk about one of the recommendations that were put forward the last time, which was the very infamous step-aside resolution, which was adopted at the last conference, which actually seems to, in some ways, be backfiring within the ANC, with some saying that, it's being used as some sort of political tool to get rid of those that are in certain factions. Do you think there'll be discussion around that resolution, the step-aside issue, and whether they can actually or will actually go forward with it? And I seem to remember last week in KZN there was talk about them wanting to put forward that the step-aside rule should actually not even be there and should not in fact be a policy of the ANC to begin with.
Yes, no, definitely not. I'm one of those who believe that the ANC never needed a step-aside policy because they do have a disciplinary procedures. But fact of the matter is, those who say this policy has to be scrapped are also not sincere, because they are not saying how in the eyes of South Africans, how right can it be for somebody who is accused and has been charged officially with murder can go and stand to be elected as a member to represent the ANC as a leader? And we can't have members of the African National Congress who are facing serious fraud charges and then come and stand for leadership positions. So one would ask, what are the alternatives? And that's why I strongly believe that political interests are taking a precedence over the interests of South Africans when it comes to the discussions of these particular policy matters, which I think at the end of the day will affect South Africans, whether you are an ANC member or not.
Just a side issue, Prof, and I'd like you to weigh in on this. I mean, you know, there's a gala dinner taking place tonight in Nasrec, which the ANC is hosting ahead of the policy conference over the weekend. But on the outside of that, you also have ANC employees who are planning a protest or are going to protest, we understand, in the next hour or so, about the fact that they haven't been paid. And that raises so many questions. And one of the questions I've asked before is, you know, you're not paying your own staff, but, you know, we're entrusting you to, to run a country and have our best interests at heart. What do you make of this? I mean, it's kind of an issue that has kind of been made a side issue, but I think it's quite an important one. The fact that ANC employees are saying for 2 months we haven't been paid, and this is not the first time, mind you, this has happened before. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and when we deal with this particular issue, it will seem as if it's an issue out there. Flow in South Africans, many people are battling. And here you've got an organization more than 100 years old. And I don't think people will then take a decision to go and protest at such an important event of the African National Congress if they haven't tried to engage with the party internally. Now, this indicates to you that there are definitely organizational defects, and one wonders, as you correctly stated, to what extent is this a reflection of an ANC, which is also an ANC which is leading our government, and perhaps this is indicative. That's why we've got such a chaotic situation in our municipalities, which some of them under Section 139 intervention, and some of them just cannot deliver services, and many other, even national departments, which battled to deliver services. I think that perhaps is also indicative of how the organization deals with issues that affects South Africans.
Prof, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so very much for giving us your time, sir.